Hi, my name is Trillian. I'm a professional games writer and DM. I'm here to answer some of your questions. Should I let my players have a high AC? Player in my game has copied one of the guides online and has a 21 AC at level 1. Is this too broken, or is it okay? A general rule of thumb is if your question starts with, should I let, the answer is usually yes. But that's not what they're asking. They're asking about AC. AC is very important, but not as important as you might think. Early game, if you have 21 AC, it takes a usually 17 or above to actually end up hitting you at all, meaning that a high AC early game is super good for tanking. The problem with this is it starts falling off when enemies around level 5 start having +7, +8, +9 to hit modifiers. While it may not seem it, the difference between a 21 and an 18 AC is kind of negligible. Having a high AC is super fun early game, so there's no reason why you shouldn't let them have it. But you also got to remember that there are other ways to attack your players without just hitting them. And if you're having a long-term campaign, high AC doesn't matter nearly as much. All right, next. How do I run Strahd? What I think they're asking is, how do I run Cursive Strahd in a way that makes Strahd scary? Horror in D&D is super duper hard, just because if people don't buy into the investment, there's just no way to get them scared or even in a horror-themed mindset. But to make Strahd scary, you just have to look at the book. His influence can be seen all over the land of Barovia, and he can appear at any time during your adventures there. By having Strahd appear frequently and having the consequences of his actions appear frequently as well, you can make Strahd a pretty intimidating villain. Yeah, so read the book. It's a great resource. Okay, next question. I feel like I'm doing a bad job as a DM. What are some things that I can do to be better for my players? I want to start with, I don't think you're a bad DM. Being a DM is one of the hardest roles to play in D&D, so you shouldn't beat yourself up. What I will recommend is a few videos. The original DM Tips series from Matt Mercer and Satine Phoenix, which was like a decade ago, is still fantastic. It goes through everything from starting the game to being evil to making good villains and good heroes. But one of the exercises you can do is reading through a D&D module. It's really good at showing off what you actually need to have prepared and how to make good characters. I highly recommend Tomb of Annihilation, Dragon Heist, and Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Something else I recommend is talking with your friends about DMing. Tell them a story idea you have and bounce ideas off each other. It's a great way to get to know what excites somebody else. It lets you test your own knowledge of your world, and it gives you something to talk about. All right, that's enough of that question. How do I get someone to play? The first rule is if someone doesn't want to play, you can't make them play. If they're on the fence, remind them that it is a game, kind of like a board game, a social environment, just hanging out with friends. If they're still on the fence, you just reiterate that as many ways as it takes for them to make their decision. You gotta honor that decision. If you convince them to play, but you don't have a game for them to play, that's kind of not cool. And if they don't want to, they don't want to. That's totally fine. It's not for everyone. Okay. I play D&D online, but I feel like my players aren't invested in the game because we aren't in person. What are some ways to keep my players engaged online? Online D&D, it's something that I've had to do since COVID. The way to keep your players engaged in an online session is to give them something to do all the time. This is very easily done in combat, where everybody has a set turn, a goal, a role. They get to do something every time. Outside of combat, it's important to make sure that every player has something to do when you're doing a social encounter or an exploration encounter, making sure everybody rolls, everybody gets to have fun. Also, rewarding players is really important. If you can reward your players for wanting to engage in your story or paying attention, whether that's with info, bonds with NPCs, or even items, that can really get somebody to engage in your game. All right, question. I hate running shopping sessions. I think they take too long, too much improvising, and ultimately could end in 20 minutes, but end up taking an entire session. What do I do? I have this feeling as well. I'm not a big fan of shopping sessions. I usually feel like they could have been finished much sooner than they actually are. I don't think every NPC needs a name and a voice. What I like doing is making shopping asynchronous. I have a tool that I made online called Ye Old Shop. You can check it out in the description. What it lets you do is create custom shops and print out receipts that you can show to your DM of things that you ended up buying. That's mostly because in my campaigns, the adventure is more important than the shopping, but that's not always the case. Sometimes people really like shopping encounters, and you just have to make that interesting for you as a DM. The way Curse of Strahd goes about it is each shopkeep has a mission or some dark secret that you can tease out by buying their product or speaking more with them or talking to other townsfolk about them. One of the shopkeepers is are they called Vishtani? Curse of Strahd Vishtani. In it, there's a Vishtani camp, and the shopkeep has a missing daughter that sends you on a side quest to go fight some water monsters. So if you manage to build your NPCs in that kind of way, it can be very fun and rewarding as a DM, so that shopping encounters don't just end up being wandering around and talking to people for a while. That was a fun batch of questions. To sum up, AC doesn't matter. Strahd is scary from the book. Read the book, engage your players in combat, and check out the link in the description. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them on this video, and maybe I'll make a part 2. Catch you.